Hello, my friends. Welcome to a brand new podcast. We're here with James in his wonderful space.
Hey, thank you.
How's it going, James?
It's going very well. Very busy though. The space is launching very soon. We just started kind of putting the idea together for Hampshire Podcast Studios, and it launches July 1st. So I'm sure by the time this is out, it might already be launched. But putting together an all-purpose space for content creation, video podcasting, audio podcasting, anything you need, one-stop shop. Walk away with your footage. So it's going to be fun.
I think it's an interesting space, right? Because I think so many people find podcasting really hard to do, to know how to do it.
Yeah.
But also, not even from a tech side, just being in the psychology around creating content, but especially having a conversation. I think maybe it's slightly more natural with the conversation element, but I wasn't actually going to start here, but I think it's a nice place to start.
Why not?
How would you say right now to people who are maybe watching this, who are looking at this and going, I kind of know I need to be doing content,
yes,
but it's terrifying.
So I for a long time, so I've run a social media agency first. That's our main background for around almost 5 years now. And I think one of the biggest learnings I've taken from that is ultimately there's a lot of personal psychology tied up in even business social media if you have to be in it. And I really didn't realize that in the first few years of doing it, because for me, a lot of it, this is so common sense as like a marketing practitioner. It's like, we need to get you in a content surplus. We need to get you everywhere. We need to transform your brand into a media asset, essentially, like a whole brand in itself, churning out stuff all the time. I want to do YouTube channels, Twitch, TikTok. I want to go to town. And I took that attitude to everyone. And I obviously had to kind of bring everyone through baby steps. I had a lot of pushback all the time. I was like, what's going on? And I realized that, it is how you feel about each app individually for a start. So you've got different challenges in each thing. And also how you feel as an individual, because you've got to put yourself out there, whether you're the founder or you're a marketing manager. And I think in learning that is what attracted me more to the whole podcasting angle first and video podcasting. When you try and drop someone straight in it to create 2-camera, YouTube videos and TikToks, you forget everything you've ever said in your whole life. Even if you're
My mouth doesn't work, James.
Yeah, literally you could be the most knowledgeable person in the world. You're like, what the fuck is going on? But if you can get in with a good co-host and you can just take some basic talking points and the theme of the show, and you're not too worried about the full show, again, you're just going for content volume, you can get so much value out and help so many people in a very relaxed setting, and it gets you used to it. So podcasting and video podcasting is my gateway drug into getting you into proper content creation and your brand into a new space. And
also, we're seeing platforms right now like YouTube. We were discussing while we were setting up and such, that one of the reasons why I'm relaunching the show and how I'm relaunching it is because I'm seeing a demand in these platforms, firstly for short form, but secondly for a long form conversation piece that I don't want to say is fluff, but has value led, right? There's a lot of people who claim to be quote experts, right? And are they?
Hard to prove these days.
It's to an extent, I think it can be subjective, of course, right?
Yeah, and how much expertise is actually valued. It actually does depend on the market a little bit, but from the amount of misinformation we see online, I think it's more about the trust and the brand of the individual as opposed to their knowledge base sometimes, which has its good and bad points.
I mean, we're both in, unfortunately, potentially soon, a commoditized market due to AI, right? And I think having a podcast, having a conversation, having brand, having personal brand, buzzword, authenticity, buzzword, community, buzzword, right? Yeah. Is the reason why you'll be in business in 20 years.
Yeah.
Right? I mean, where do you see AI?
Its point right now, because one of the USPs of Hampshire Podcast Studios is human-led AI enabled, right? We've kind of created a unique workflow where using 3 or 4 different softwares, we can kick out a really good service much more quickly than it was ever possible before, depending on how fussy you are with shooting settings and all that kind of stuff. So it's right now, it's beautiful for grunt work. It's beautiful for getting out of the way some of the things that were actually quite tedious. When it gets to the point where it can do the advanced stuff, then we're in a different space. So right now I'm not too afraid of AI, but also one of the reasons I wanted to start the studio itself is so we have, we kind of own the means of production a little bit. Yeah. I think it's going to take quite a while for people shooting it in person in totality to be replaced. And I think it will go in phases. So it'll be short form, easy or creative content. I mean, we're seeing a lot of incredible stuff at the moment. That will be the first to go. Then the more in details, maybe YouTube video, talking heads when you're more static. I think that might also go. And then eventually it'll be pretty much everything. But we have no idea how long that might take. It could be one of those moves way more quickly than we think in like a 3 to 5 year span, or it could be 10 to 20. Not quite sure. It
is interesting, right? Because we're also in a world where AI influencers are a thing now. They will continue to be a thing, right? And I think the commoditization, the commoditization of attention, the gathering of attention, is what marketers want, right? Yes. What we're talking about when we go into detail and we add value is the tactics and the nuance that comes with, like when we first met, we were talking about TikTok as an idea, right? Now, fast forward, 3-4 years?
Yeah, you'd be surprised how many people still haven't picked up on that one. Yeah.
But again, it's, just for those who don't know who may be listening, right? Like, can you explain what you explained then, in layman's terms, the difference between a social graph and an information-based graph, or something which is more TikTokified in that respect?
In terms of how the algorithm works?
Yeah, the physical algorithm, how it works, and then how it also could have a knock-on effect to now what we're seeing in every single platform because of especially meta-based platforms right now. LinkedIn will do it. It hasn't still social-based really, but give it another 2 years, I expect it will go interest-based. YouTube Shorts is interest-based. TikTok is obviously, of course, interest-based, etc. What does that mean?
So
the layman,
the easiest way to describe it is the TikTokification of the internet. So that's the starting point. TikTok came along. Let's say pandemic is where it really kicked off. We're all at home. This new app pops up. Oh, let's check it out. A lot of people didn't jump on it at first. That was very kind of still early, at least from a UK market point of view, very early on. At some point, everyone clocked onto the fact that TikTok pretty much has the best algorithm going for interest-based suggestions. I'd say even more better than YouTube in terms of how that works. So it then became extremely addictive. Every other platform caught on to that, realized we're going to get left behind in the interest-based economy. We have to get on that. So now every single platform has an interest-based video feed, and now pretty much main feed, especially the Meta suite, that's gone full interest-based. I think X/Twitter, that has gone interest-based. Blue Sky has remained solid in the fact that they, for following, I think that's part of their USP. Even LinkedIn now is going interest-based feed they're testing it a little bit on the main feed, but mostly on that kind of scrolling video. So it is unavoidable. And that has essentially created a very interesting thing where it's the social part has been removed from social media. It's gone. It is just media. And if your brand or personal brand or as a freelancer, you're not part of that interest-based economy where you're churning out stuff that will eventually get to the right person, you will be left behind a little bit in that. Overthinking quality, overthinking substance sometimes can hinder your attempts and testing to get to where you need to be. I'm always a proponent of scale, test fast. Even if you need to post quite a lot, figure out what works, where are your golden veins that you need to mine, and then start improving little by little the same way a creator would. That's all I'm always looking at.
I think it's interesting, right? Because when we first got here, we were talking about the difference in scale versus perceived quality or quality, right? And I think that so many people worry about what is the judgment of X partner, friends, colleagues, so on, dog is equivalent, right? What are the, I'm going to spam them, right? What I'm going to post too much is part of knowing what works. Volume, would you say?
Yeah, well, you need a certain amount of volume to test, and
at what point does it become spammy?
This will differ per platform, and some platforms is pretty much impossible to spam. So you got to think about user behavior. So if we take TikTok, 70% of content, I think still, or probably more now, is digested on the For You page instead of the following. So people have to make an intentional step to head over to get everything in the chronological order of the people that they follow. That is where maybe all of your videos appear quite a lot. And you're like, okay, weird. But if not, it's just going out into the ocean. I see every kind of short form video you post is pretty much just taking a bucket of water and pouring it into the ocean at this point. Like there is very little risk of it being seen a bajillion times. But that's when you get to a TikTok, Meta, Facebook point of view. if you're looking at something like LinkedIn, the algorithm is still early and it's still developing. So a lot of people might see the same thing. You'll notice on your LinkedIn that you'll still have the regulars engage first and often see it. They might get notifications if you engage with them regularly. And from that point, other people might see it based on if someone likes, comments, shares, because LinkedIn is quite good in the fact that someone comments, that might as well be a share. That's quite handy in terms of how that works. So per platform, it does change slightly. However, even someone with an extremely engaged following like me and you, we could probably post 3 videos a day and it won't bother anyone, or they might see one, they might see none. But they might see all 3 on Tuesday next week.
Yeah.
You can't quite tell where that is at. So I'm of the opinion that you're never going to lose out by posting more often. What most likely is going to happen is someone's going to go, bloody hell, you're everywhere, mate. That's the place I want to be. I'd rather be top of mind and someone be slightly miffed. I'd rather take that risk.
I was going to say, because that's the main trap for me. Like, you're probably the 5th person, 6th person I've met this week in person.
Yep.
And every single one of them's first reaction when they first meet me is, you're fucking everywhere.
That's the way.
Right?
Yeah.
And for me, I'm like, that means I'm doing something right.
Yeah,
because it means you're seeing me. Now, it might not mean necessarily you're consuming 100% of that video, that one video, but then my heart isn't, oh my God, James didn't watch my whole video.
Yeah. Because ultimately, if you start knowing that, and especially that there is a massive silent lurkers user behavior on LinkedIn, I think goes underestimated. There is a large percentage, and I'm not sure the specific number, of people that watch video without sound, that just kind of watch it without checking in. Yep. Now, if you don't click that video, I don't think it actually classes as an official like engagement. I think after a certain point in watch time, without kind of clicking the unmute button, that will then class as a view. But you'll have a lot of lurkers, which means your actual statistics won't show the true success of what you're doing. So this is where like you get into the debate between reach and impression numbers and which one you should really focus on. I'm quite focused on views at the moment. Views and watch time are basically the most essential KPIs now. But in terms of how you need to look at LinkedIn specifically, yeah, I think you just go nuts. But if you're going to make those slight improvements to really focus on the quality element, again, quality is subjective. For a lot of people, our content will be quality because we have good equipment, good knowledge. And a lot of people within our industry will look at quality as how good's the edit. What are the things that grab back attention? So there are nuances to the game, and it does depend on your audience. So I often just optimize for the silent watcher. Title that lingers for like the first 5 to 10 seconds, put the best bit at the front, and then let the rest of the story play out. Because you still got to manage your own resource. Even if you have a team behind you, they've still got to manage their resource. You can't do a full Diary of a CEO trailer for everything. And often, if you're not already quite big or have a large following, we have catching up to do compared to others. So different spaces for different places.
I think, again, and it's one of those things where I think this should be a yes and not a yes or, right? So for me, I'm like, that's a good idea. Let's do that. And a podcast and short form and talks and in-person events
best, right?
and this and that and that, because I don't then worry or care about this specific video has got X amount of views. I have absolutely no interest, to be honest, in what that standalone video does. What my views are as a whole across Meta, across Instagram, across LinkedIn, across... So, yes.
Yeah.
Okay? As a whole.
Yep.
Specific video, don't care.
Yeah.
Because I don't know what's going to go well or hit. The only way you can do that is test it, right?
Yeah. Test
and
it
something
and look at
which,
the spikes on your graph.
Yeah, and something when you're specifically creating content around a targeted event like an in-person event or a service you're trying to sell, etc. A strategy that's worked for me in the past and will work now is put out a load of short form stuff, see what happens, see what works, and then media buy, ad, meta, placement, etc. against the stuff you already know works because you've already got the viewership, you've already got the metrics, and that way you're not then potentially wasting pounds or dollars figuring out going, is this good? Now, this is one of those things where you might want to tweak the copy slightly because it's an ad and not a post, etc. Things like that. But overall, it's going to work because you already know the creative's good. You know?
Absolutely.
And the thing is, for me, I think people, they use the I'm trying to create one polished video on LinkedIn as an excuse not to be working.
Yeah, because a lot of people will take that out. Again, this is where we come back to the personal psychology point. We know we're supposed to go to the gym. Do we all go all the time? Some people do. Most people don't. That's just the reality of it. It's Gary Vee that made the point originally. You know, social media is like going to the gym and eating healthily. We're going to relapse. We're going to mess up. We're not going to stay consistent all the time. We're going to have sprints where we kill it, and then times where life happens.
Yeah.
Don't punish yourself for that. Kind of go with the flow. Do what you can do best. And this is what the testing allows you to do. Find what medium is the easiest for you to create and find most comfortable. Because I've noticed that I'm a big proponent of TikTok and its uses and how it works. In terms of me creating TikTok content, I'm actually quite bad at it. In terms of the pacing, in terms of how you need to deliver it, you know, sometimes some of the memes and things like that, like I personally struggle. That's why we have a good team behind us. Whereas in a YouTube or podcast setting, I thrive, and I think that is sometimes a matter of age. Sometimes I'm 28, so I'm either the oldest Gen Z or the youngest millennial. So I'm right in that center point, depending on what blog you read. So, but I grew up with YouTubers, so that is how I often visualize and say my thoughts and verbalize them. And some people will talk as TikTok because, for example, if you got your phone out, the viral hook is as you're putting the phone down. Guys, the other day I did this, right? And they'll prop their phone down. Yeah. That is the telling the story or popping the phone down in the car or talking in the car or the quick flip up. This is stuff that is derived from TikTok and is done really well. And it's something you can learn, but it's not something that will come natural to you if it wasn't your first port call almost. So you do have to adapt to where you're at. And once you test, once you get used to it, because you've got the barriers of editing, you'll hear yourself, you'll see yourself. We are so used to it at this point, it doesn't matter. But there was a point in time where we were like, oh my God.
Wait, I sound like that?
Yeah, literally.
What the fuck?
Literally. And now, for some reason, it sounds exactly the same to me. But before it sounded so different.
Yeah.
But there is that hurdle. So I'm very acutely aware, even in a B2B corporate setting at some of the largest companies, if I've got the challenge of bringing a video podcast in or video content, that person has to start from ground zero.
Yeah.
It does not matter how big that brand is. If we have to use someone,
but I deal with $100 million deals, James.
Yeah, and then and I go, all right, tell me now, and I put
my math doesn't work. Who am I? What day is it?
Who are you? So it's hard, but you have to practice.
Yeah,
this is what a lot of brands do have some hubris around it. Like I'm a big brand, we can do whatever. Yeah, it depends on your presenter. Unless you're going to bring in a professional presenter and pay.
But again, should you from a brand point of view? Because the whole point is I'm talking on camera, right?
You need
so the same person who sells is the same person who's talking on camera.
Homegrown will always win, in my opinion. Homegrown, authentic, buzzword. Homegrown, authentic.
We like our buzzwords.
We do. Homegrown, authentic, and just I think not tied to perfection is probably the best piece of advice I can give when it comes to corporate content. Yeah, like something completely unedited, probably similar to how this podcast is going to be, flows nicely. You can tell it's genuine. Their corporate trust is at an all-time low as is. If you are going out with something ultra polished that's over the top, you brought a TV presenter in, good luck relating to anyone, right? It is that kind of equation. So yeah, factor that in. If you're the biggest brand or just starting, both people are kind of in the same place.
Yeah. And if you are starting, I think you'll pick up things, right? Like I've noticed, you may have noticed it in the show. I didn't piss around at the start.
No.
It was bang, this is who I am talking to, this is what's going on, bang, we're talking to James, cool, straight in, right? That's only because I'm used to doing long form content on YouTube. I've been doing it like 2 years, consistently for 2 years now.
Yeah, because a lot of people don't realise the first 10 seconds is the new thumbnail. That auto plays as soon as you hover over the video. Yeah. So if you don't get straight into it,
well, you've lost someone, and I know how the YouTube algorithm will work in the respect to, right, if someone sits and watches this for 10 minutes and is interested in this conversation, they're gonna then be then the video, the big podcast will be served to a larger set of people, and then so on. That's how stuff goes viral, right? Same with short form, but on a more narrow basis. The key, I mean, like, okay, we're probably at the point where people, if they're going to click off, hey, happy days. Yeah. So let's give people a bit of a history lesson on you, right? I mean, when we first met, you were not running this. You were running what, from my understanding, was a basically fully service social media company that helped B2B brands think like crazy.
Yes.
In Crux, right?
Yes.
Okay, what happened? How did you get here? How did you start there, and then how did you get here?
So it was really interesting. So the official journey was, scroll all the way back, lockdown, I think 2021 or 2022, is somewhere in that range. We all start working from home, weird day for us. We think we're going to be back next week. Oh boy, did we mess that one up. So we were there, and I realised that, I felt like I was outgrowing the place I was at, to put it that way, and I was like, I could probably do this. So got an ad up on Fiverr, and for a month it kind of did nothing. Had no idea what I was doing. I came from an advertising marketing background, 4+ years in that, working in-house and agency side, so I had all of the knowledge to bring. It was just a case of how do I business? I had no idea. So that ad basically did nothing for like a month, and then suddenly it put me in this like featured creators section. So I had a lucky break there. Most people don't admit their luck, folks. That's how it happened. And then from there I got my first client, and then got my second client through Fiverr. I got my third. That pretty much got me to the point where it was around what I was earning, and I just went, see ya, and then I took a risk from there. And then from there it started to just me, one person, two person, third person. Ended up kind of, as we're going along the scene, working with the likes of the University of Southampton, Barclays Eagle Labs, American Express, Global Business Travel, people like that, over that 4-year period, almost 5 years, and it grew very fast, very quick. Didn't know how to business, so from that point it was a tricky thing to navigate. And eventually I was just like, this is also isn't making me happy. We grew way too fast, way too much pressure, navigating contracts, chasing people that hadn't paid. It was that essentially, and overspending too. We had office space at the time because I was in my head, and I think a lot of people's minds, we still had the path to return to normal. So I was spending a lot on hybrid office space to go, come in if you want, you don't have to, but we have a space where you can still be creative, we can collaborate, and then trying to figure out what that was. But that was lots of extra spending on, mostly UK team. We had an overseas team as well, and helped facilitate both. So we had kind of a hybrid model, but in the end there was a few kind of financial things we ran into in terms of contracts, things like that with larger clients, and it pretty much was, it sunk the boat. But I then kind of took some time away, because it also happened at the same time as some personal losses. So I was very anti-work for like at least a year or two, I'd say. I was in the mindset of like, why do we do this? Reading Buddhist scripture, how it gets.
I'm going to go mountain, man.
Yeah, literally. I was just like, bro, I should be
I'm going to vibe out.
Yeah,
it's all good.
Out in the field. I was, when you get into watching like Outdoor Boys on YouTube, and you're just like, oh.
Show me the jungle, man. Show me the jungle.
Yeah, I was just like, dump me somewhere in the middle of nowhere. I know how to survive now. I watch your YouTube video.
I can make fire because I watched it on YouTube.
Man, make fire. So I was in that zone for ages. But then, I rebranded, created a new agency with a different spin on it called Straw Hat Social. And
you need a straw hat, by the way.
Yeah, absolutely. It's inspired by one of my favorite shows, One Piece. I absolutely love it. I kind of made Shogun up on the spot many years ago, so it didn't really have much personal meaning to me. But Straw Hat does. It's basically a show about pirates, and the kid who wants to be the king of the pirates. And it sounds simple, but it's one of the most complex and deeply layered shows in history. 7th best-selling piece of media ever in the entire world. So check out One Piece. So from there, it's a very different angle in terms of how I approach it. It's a bit more of an in-house agency model in terms of I do spend time at clients' offices at times. It's very involved in terms of more of a consultancy angle, because what I learned a lot of the time is most of the time there's other work to be done in the rest of the marketing cycle compared to when it was just social. So that is what Straw Hat is a little bit more. I'm still working on, I need to create a website still, the taglines, all the rest of it. But then the next part of that was the podcast studio, and that has now been born from that journey of going. Often a lot of clients had financial troubles, especially some of the smaller ones. A lot of them needed content, but for us to produce it and for me to have a retainer good enough to support my team ended up being too chunky. And I was like, we just need a place where someone can come in, grab their stuff and go, but still have a good experience and get what they need. And it's guided by social first expertise. And that's how this was born. So that's the journey through and through. It's been really interesting.
And it's a really interesting space. And I'm kind of curious where it's going to be in a year to two, right?
Me too.
From what we've discussed. But I think that leads on quite nicely to what is the missed opportunities right now in marketing? Because we're talking about like short form is good, but it's kind of 3 years old now. The idea of it is 3 years old.
Yeah, it's fairly commonplace at this point. I think a lot of brands know
even AI, using AI is kind of like 2-3 years, right?
Yeah, and I think a lot of people are so aware of it. I think there's multiple layers, so people are often overwhelmed by the amount of choices now. Even myself, I'm probably sat on, without no matter of a lie, about 150 clips odd that I have trouble distributing because of the time, alongside trying to do your regular duties and biz dev and all that kind of stuff. So sometimes you can hit a content surplus problem. So that's one, overwhelm. But there's also, I think things are undervalued I don't think there's a silver bullet where like this is super underestimated, but I think because of the rise of TikTok and AI, I think YouTube is a seriously underrated platform. Because for brands especially, like my dream for Hampshire Podcast Studios is for it to be a full-blown vlog channel, podcast channel. I want it to feel like a living, breathing entity. And this is where the brand part comes in. Eventually, I want someone following me around, the team around as it grows, and just helping people out as much as humanly possible in the most authentic, easy way possible, by also doing what I do on a daily basis. I think that has a really nice ring to it. We love following bloggers. I think I'm lucky enough to, a lot of people do follow for my personality at times, and I can channel that big energy. So it's one of my unfair advantages. And again, a lot of people do have to tap into their unfair advantages, figure out what sticks, what works for them. But yeah, I think YouTube is just seriously underrated. I still think good usage of TikTok from a B2B channel point of view, underrated. And I think people need to just focus in on that platform and possibly looking at some new starters. Blue Sky, I think, especially if you're in the political space or if you're in the more thought leadership space, do open an account and start growing it, because that's new, fresh, fertile ground with the anti-Elon sentiment in the world at the moment. X kind of is very much transformed, as a lot of people know. So if you want a kind of non-toxic space, Blue Sky is where you need to be. I mean, Threads is Threads. For me, it's a bit of a non-starter. Most people just dual post across both from Instagram to Threads. So yeah, I think having some kind of home base and making it feel living and breathing is where I want to be at, because that's the part you couldn't replicate that. I mean, you'd have to go through years and years of stuff and spend lots of time dedicating to prompt engineering to really get almost a sitcom. And this is how I explain this to a lot of big brands. Like, there's so much interwoven intricacies in brands that grow so big. The best example I could possibly give is the Goat Agency. They were like the king of pioneering vlogs, and they still do them to this day. That company probably has the best set of advertising for what work culture is like at Goat. I want to create that at some point and then distribute them through the short form channels, LinkedIn, TikTok, YouTube Shorts, all of them, because it's like a home base, a secondary to your website. Yep. And that's where I want to be at, where I think it's kind of undervalued.
But you're also building that parasocial relationship, right? Like 95% of the reason why I have good relationships is actually nothing to do with how much time I spend with you personally, right here, sat here today.
Yep.
It's actually how much do we spend interconnected with each other's content, right? And ensuring potentially there's value being added or not. And actually, in an interest-based world, it's even easier. Because if I don't like what you're saying, I won't get served it. Sorry, I'm just not going to. No. It's not going to happen.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. It's the same. It's like, so there's a couple of rules I introduced with that. Does it go through the Holy Trinity? Does it educate, inspire, or entertain? If it's not one of those three, don't bother. People's time, they'll be gone. And then the second one, act as the audience.
Yeah.
But you gotta be so brutal about your stuff. Like, would I have been hooked? Would I have scrolled? You got around 2-3 seconds max. We're looking at organic. You have to be better ultimately, and just post.
But you don't have to be better straight away.
Oh God, no.
Right, that's I think the key there, because I think when you say that, people will be like, "Oh fuck, why do I even bother?"
You can your quality can be shite and your content can be shite, but you can still get really good at hooks.
Yeah. But don't underestimate what you can do on a phone.
Yeah, we specifically basically only use vlogging cameras because one, it's like for client stuff, because we only make social content usually, it's that perfect middle ground between high-end premium or like cinema line cameras and slightly better than a phone, so you can tell it's like made for purpose for a certain piece of content and has that slightly uplifted thing. Because sometimes you go too far, if the camera's quality is too nice, sometimes people think it's an ad. Yeah. And I think that is a very subconscious, you're trained to scroll really quickly.
Yeah, the only time I would say that that's not true is if you're selling video production.
Big time.
Right, if you're selling, if your product is, this is how good it sounds, right? You can have off days, you can have bad environments, etc., whatever. The value of the content is what actually matters at the end of the day. Yeah. But on an average, if you're selling something that looks and sounds good, every video should look and fucking sound good.
Yeah. Yeah, definitely an exception for your business.
Excluding that, absolutely, doesn't matter.
Yeah, I think one of my favourite success stories from when we were doing work is we worked with a company called Skill Scaffolding, shout out to Skill Scaffolding, who wanted help starting their TikTok up. And what we did was kind of mic up the boys and did it in a vlog style. They just explained what they were doing, out and about on jobs. We did a tour around the site. Mate, I think we got millions of views from that. It was in the first 3 months. Like there was a real appetite for industries that you wouldn't think so. Construction, massive. If there is a construction company out there listening right now, you need a TikTok account, you need a YouTube account, you need to go hard. I couldn't believe how much people were like, because it basically is all the boys that got home from work, like, oh, is he using a fucking 380D, or like, yeah, you can't be doing that, you got to wrap this up different way. So there was the positives and the negatives of like going, oh, I would have done it that way. But there was this, like, again, that parasocial relationship there, even from the actions they were taking, because they were like, I do that at work too. That representation of something they didn't see before, I think is massive. And I think a lot of companies, I think they're too boring to do stuff like that. Are probably
I can't do that. I'm an accountant, James.
I think the accountants could absolutely do it. Like, it would be so funny to have like a funny accountants podcast, or like just a vlog at the accountant's office. And the whole hook is, I'm going to prove to you that accountants aren't boring. And then you just show the work day.
I remember that I did a strategic session with a networking group that unfortunately doesn't exist anymore. But the point was, an accountant asked me, how do I do hooks? And I said, think about worst case scenario, someone gets their books wrong. What's going to happen?
Yeah.
And the hook ended up being like, if your books are shit, your business is going under.
Yeah. And
then they went into the whatever, right? But it's like, you have to grab the attention straight away. It's like, fuck, shit. Yeah. Okay.
And I think a lot of people, here's the personal psychology thing again, you resist that immediately because you don't want to come across as spammy or clickbait or think you're trying to over dramatize the situation. There is something in the this is why the Americans paved the way first in terms of content output, and then we adopt it later once we see it works, because one, we're just a skeptical nation, but two, we're all a bit too frightfully to make all that fuss.
Oh, but we also want to speak like this and be stubborn off lip and not swear on camera, don't you know?
Can't do that.
No.
Whereas the people that do...
Meanwhile, in America, Gary's screaming on the stage, for example.
Yeah, exactly. And he's killed it that way for years. But I think there's an aversion to hooks sometimes because you're worried about perception, even on the brand level, which is really interesting. So there is a removal we need to do of that. And hooks/clickbait is okay as long as you actually deliver. If it's, I'm going to get you 1 million followers right now, and then it's just bullshit advice, that is bad clickbait. But if we...
And also it doesn't work anymore.
Yeah. So to give an example from this podcast, if we were doing, here's how my business completely went under, cut to black, and then I just told the story I did before. But that was the hook that made it dramatic enough to stick around. And that is what we need to focus on, essentially. But you still need to deliver in some way or form.
I mean, the next thing I was going to ask you is about like fear related to AI, but I think it's actually about fear of being replaced in content or in jobs in general. I mean, do you see, in the people you speak to, your circles, etc., do you see people scared of AI? Are people like, okay, we're game over here, boys?
Yeah, a little bit. I think especially when it comes to, because you can kind of see what's on the chopping block first a little bit in terms of, one, there's company memos going out all over the place. I think the Shopify CEO was like, before we put any new hires out, double check that an AI agent can't do this. So from a leadership level, there is definitely a ruthlessness that is kind of starting a little bit, where cost cutting is becoming the norm, especially in the economy we're in. It's a very risky place to be. So there's a political sentiment and a fear-based sentiment from the top. So that's not good. The leadership shouldn't be thinking that way in general. It should be to enhance every employee, not to replace employee or new hires. So that's a start from large companies that contribute. The second point is looking at, you can tell some areas are getting good fast. For instance, creating fantasy content from scratch with video. Is Google's tool VO? Is it?
VO3.
VO3.
Yeah.
I've been entranced with watching like the Yeti and Bigfoot vlogs on TikTok, which sound insane, but like I've never seen. I watched one the other day where Bigfoot was working for the cartel, like dropping drugs in the rainforest, and it's just like we are here, and they are really funny.
But you don't sit there and go, "Well, that happened. That's real," because it's Bigfoot dropping drugs in a jungle, right?
I think that's why it's fairly accepted, because like it's received really positively, because it's a whole fantasy thing. It's clearly AI labeled, and it's using AI in a way that's funny and not scary. But if you try to then, let's say if you took an audio podcast and went transcribe this but put us in a fake studio and everything else like that, I don't think that'd be received very well at all, because that is just the perceived thing of, all right, you've removed the cameraman, you've removed this, you remove that, you're cutting the humanity out of a humanizing process. So I think there's a way you use it can help.
Well, we already watched this happen. I can't remember which YouTube it was, but there was a Minecraft YouTuber who was like, I'm going to AI myself. I'm going to make everything AI. And it completely, his entire audience turned on him.
Yeah.
The long and the short of that story was the entire audience turned on him.
We're not in a place societally where it's like super accepted right now. Like, there are certain ways that are accepted, some ways that aren't, and sometimes you can't actually tell where that is going to fall. And if you're a brand that's just doing nothing but trying to AI everything, whether that's individuals, like I had a studio tour, for instance. I like to take pictures with the people that come down. I forgot to take a selfie with a guy, and I was like, "Could you send me a picture of you?" And I'm just gonna like do a cartoon version, and say, "I fucked up. AI came to help us though, and here's a picture of us together." And that'll be my saving grace. And that's fine because it's just a little helping hand, as opposed to, it's not like I could have sent that to a designer or a Photoshopper and they would have made that happen, because the pictures would have been clearly Photoshopped and weird. So it's a different use case. So if you can see it's helping someone as opposed to replacing someone, I think that's where the sentiment changes. But graphic design is what scares me. For what comes first, I guess. That's getting scarily good fast, even better than the video side.
Yeah.
In terms of prompt engineering, if you can get that right, it's like, ooh, that's a bit mad. But I mainly worry for entry-level positions, because a lot of the things you have to learn, a lot of the grunt work you do would be the base level edits, will be your standard graphics. It'll be like, that's where you learn your trade. And that's what worries me, because I know that big companies will try and cut that out fast.
But is there the counter argument, I guess, to that is, you could be valuable to a company that isn't leveraging AI by teaching them how to use AI to do that thing.
Absolutely. There is, chaos is a ladder. There is an abundance of opportunity that comes from this uncertainty, this change and all that stuff. But this depends on whether you're looking at it from an individual solution or a societal solution. I'm always looking at it from, I could probably spin up a course tomorrow talking about how we can introduce it to your business, and this is how you don't get left behind and all this. Morally, for me, I'm like, I can't do that, because I want to look at the societal solution of how do we get AI to help us and not replace people that sometimes you just want a job. Like, I don't want to have to live in a world where we all have to be bombastic entrepreneurs and hustlers, because it is not feasible to live in a society where everyone does that. No. There was a fascinating podcast, Diver CEO, the debate between a guy called Gary Stevenson and Daniel Priestley. I respect both equally, but you could tell they were talking past each other. Yeah. One guy's talking about a solution for the individual, the other one's talking about a solution for society. And I think we do need to find a middle ground, because ultimately everyone's got to look after themselves. Yeah. If we go too far in the realms of rugged individualism, we leave everyone who's vulnerable behind. And I think there is a place where we can move forward and do this right. Yep. But this is what's interesting. What will happen is America and probably China will pave the way in a massive way for AI development. And typically what's happened so far, the EU in general will then regulate the advancements that come from those two areas. That's typically its role. It's not really a powerhouse in terms of AI and technology, but what it does, it knows how to make rules right, GDPR, other stuff like that, and it kind of reins in rampant innovation, because otherwise people get left behind. Yeah,
and I think there's so much you could go into on that, but I think the main thing is like self accountability related to your own actions, right? Like, it's interesting because obviously when I've been starting the podcast and do the research on the show, what I want to do with it, etc. But like, even in the podcast I filmed this morning with Jack, we were talking about the fact that the economy is in a bad place, which is really weird for me to hear, to be honest. And this is going to sound really horrible, because I'm doing better than ever in respect to like commercial work. But is that because I'm self-action and I took an audit of what I was doing last year when things were harder? Like, it's not like, oh, I'm fucking immune to it. Last year was shit, right? And it was like, do I get to a position where I did my audit, I redid all my marketing, I redid all my structure, I fill in all the gap times, and then I'm very focused on client delivery? Yeah. Is that why? Because I'm 100% account. Like, I don't. Yes, you need to know what's going on in the news, but I'm not sat here going, Rachel Weezer said this. Like, we're speaking about this.
It'd be easy to use that as a
on
crutch.
The day that Hertzberg's statement is happening. I've got no idea what it said. Yeah, it's probably happened. I've no idea. Yeah, I've been too busy working.
There's a spending review today.
Yeah, that's what I mean. But I know it's today. Yeah, I've got no idea what was said. What? Because I've been working all day.
Yeah, same here. I only got to hear a little bit of the preamble before she actually kicked off. But there is a fine balance, and I think it might be industry dependent when we look at it. So industries like ours, you can look at it in two ways. Usually, first thing they cut is marketing. The smart companies don't. When everyone brings their marketing down, you ramp up. That depends on if that company has resource or not. And if you're talking to that company, that's the right mindset. So there's that. The second thing is, it is also, everything's down to the individual. Obviously, the pandemic was an awful time economically. I came up during that. That was my ladder. I was born in the dark, raised by it. So I completely get where you're coming from in terms of, right, yeah, fuck it. If there's chaos going around everywhere, I'm just going to take advantage of everything.
But I think you just need to focus. I don't think it's just as simple
for
as
business owners,
like you just need to focus on what the fuck has worked and what the fuck you think is going to work, and then just get your head down, right? Stop getting heady or whatever you want to call it.
Yeah.
In XYZ person said this, or Donald's done this, or the PM's done this, or
the news cycle is so draining at this point. It is. For most people's own sanity, and I'm super clued into the politics and news and all that stuff, it's almost impossible to keep up with America at the moment. And obviously that affects the world, unfortunately. The UK is a little bit more stable, but just not moving very fast. So, but I think the easiest way to describe it is like, I think the motorcyclists have a term for it when they get focused on the big truck that's next to them. If they stare at the truck, they will subconsciously get closer and turn into it. They're like, no! Even though they could just like not go that way, but like it's like their hands make it. It's like when you're supposed to look where you're throwing the ball and things like that. So for business owners, freelancers, everyone that has like the agency over what they can do, I think that they need to focus and really kind of hone in and, like you say, just like blinders on. I don't care what's happening. The world is falling down around me. I'm going to make this money. That's the opportunity we have. But then the socialist in me kicks in, where I just want the people that just want a job to be able to have a job, be stable, be happy, without having to be like, mega AI improvements, I'm going to upload your business. Because some people, we need the world to go around with people that just do jobs.
Yeah, but you can call it like the people who clean the cars or clean the office or clean the shop or whatever, there needs to be those people.
Yeah.
But I think people who are willing to be that extra level, right, they should, right? And I think it's important if you can right now, if you're in a functional position where you can push forward, you can. Financially, you can. Energy, you can. Fires me up, right? Something I've noticed as I start doing podcasts and other things is I'm less focused on where the business is. Now you'd be like, but that doesn't make it like that, so on. But with financial planning, I know that I'm fine regardless.
Yeah.
And actually, I'm like, okay, cool. But actually, I'm then winning more work because of that.
Yeah.
Which is a really weird concept,
It's very similar. The biggest learning I had from when the business started to go down on my side was my lead tap almost entirely turned off when I stopped focusing on social. Social was my main pipeline. Inbound was our main pipeline. It's not like we had like mega website inquiries or anything like that. That was my lifeblood. But what happened was subconsciously I was like, we've grown to a point now. Bigger companies don't bother with all this social media. Like, maybe I can just calm down a little bit. Ironic enough, considering what I did. But I was like, I almost sat in this complacency of they'll come to us now. I'd have to try as hard.
Would it be fair to say your ego got in the way?
A little bit, yeah, I think so. But also there was
we're big enough now. Look at us.
Yeah, it was also a point where I think there was not safety in numbers thing, but we had a fairly good sized team that I was like, we are one of those stable, proper companies now. Like, it felt like we had like when you feel like an institution can't go down or anything like that. So there was a little bit of that, but also because of all the growth and growing pains, there was so many fires to put out individually. Yeah. It just took my eye off the ball. It also drained a lot of my energy. So I couldn't really refocus back on. I couldn't bring that same enthusiasm. The ideas used to come to my head. That was almost taken from me by the stress of a growing organization.
Yeah.
And I think, again, it's probably another problem that people might be facing that isn't talked about enough. But ultimately, like, all of that combined, it made me deprioritize social. And that was essentially the start of the death of 1,000 cuts. So, yeah, social is important, folks. Don't be like me. But we're okay now. It's good.
It's, I think in that respect, and I think to an extent, it's also about understanding where you are, right? If you don't want to grow and you're happy where you are, then yes, you should still do social. But it should be less of a priority if you're trying to scale.
If you don't want to grow, you should focus on social even more, because you just that pipeline. You want it stuck there for whenever you need something. Just pluck something out of it, like a box of toys.
And also, you don't know what projects are going to come from those connections, from those ideas, from those things. Nearly everything that I do now has come from a pipe idea that has happened while I'm asleep, while I'm there. The concept of the new format of the show, it will sometimes be remote, sometimes hybrid, sometimes on location, etc. That came from downtime. That came from me thinking, right, okay, I'm doing this on social, I'm good with this, but what about this? The same with the AI workshop and the content creation workshop I'm working on at the moment, right? Same thing. It was like, okay, cool, that makes sense. There's demand for that potentially, right? Needs marketing, cool, fab, cool. And the same thing, and I know you want to talk a little bit about live streaming. Where's live streaming fit into this then?
Live streaming is really interesting. So when I'm always a proponent of looking at creator economies. So creator economy in general is essentially, where are all the platforms right now where people are making a living from? Where's a lot of the content coming from? Where's a lot of the trends starting? All that stuff. So it's so important to find what's happening right now. YouTube and TikTok essentially had dominated for a long time. Twitch has basically come out of nowhere, and a lot of people do stream on different platforms, but Twitch is the most important one. Live streamers, I think in general, have replaced YouTubers as the main go-tos, because what's happening is, well, in Gen Z circles anyway, what's happened is, you've got Kai Cenat, iShowSpeed, Drewski, all these people that are like more often creating content via live stream. They have so much more content they're able to distribute. They started dominating the airwaves, very similar to how podcasters dominate the airwaves via clip distribution. They started winning the war of attribution in regards to kind of just like getting clips out there here and there, and in interest-based content. But
they have that huge file of long form to be able to then...
these people stream 8 hours a day.
That's what I mean.
If you look at political streamers like Hassan Piker, he literally streams 8 hours a day, Monday to Saturday. Like, it's an insane amount of content. He's giving takes constantly. Every piece of news that happens live, he's staring at the computer, essentially waiting for the next headline to come through so he can give a take. He has full thing. But
then his editing team, which is important to mention, will then have that clip on YouTube within like 2 hours, whilst he's still streaming.
Within a couple of... So he's really unique in the fact that obviously he's a left-wing, almost socialist creator. He opens the door, so he has no copyright on his content. So he allows other people to use his content and monetize their YouTube channels without striking them. So he has a content economy where everyone makes stuff for him. He has his own channel where he monetizes and things like that, but his channel is often 1 or 2 days late. There are a multitude of clip channels that get stuff in while he's still live. It'll come out within the hour, and it will just take that 10-minute segment or that 40-minute segment. It's incredible the speed in which those people work, because they make a living off of Hassan making a living. So it was fascinating to see how this happened. But Twitch streamers have become like the front end of like the social cultural zeitgeist, to use a weird term. So ultimately, follow what they're doing. And I think the first few brands that get serious about live streaming, and I think brands like, we've seen Foot Asylum, for instance, lead the way in terms of YouTube channels. If they can find a way to do Twitch, even B2B brands, like, my dream would be to live stream entire studio days, to be able to stream other people's podcasts if they were comfortable with it, to show what they could do through my channels, to kind of always be sharing the love in that sense. You would be able to see such an awesome mix of different things. Each industry, some industries won't be able to do it, some can, but I think if they're the first to market, there is a rare opportunity there to be taken seriously in that space, because Twitch has only been for like gaming for a while. Let's Chat style stuff has become more and more popular. That is now the most popular thing. It's less gaming and more essentially completely universal.
Do you think that the TikTok live shopping experience is also going to be a game changer in the next 10 years?
They are going hard on that. I keep getting ads for webinars to become like kind of a TikTok live agency, because they're trying to bring other people into the fold. It's really interesting. It's something we're considering for the studio, to have almost a live shopping zone, or to figure out how to kind of do that properly. We have sets for it, but there's a certain kind of aesthetic and way to do it. Live shopping is becoming crazy. TikTok shopping sells insane amounts, without considering potential bans. At least in the UK, that's nowhere near anything. In the States, I don't think they'll ever ban it, because Trump gets too many headlines from TikTok and too many views. So I think he'll leave it the way it is. So I think, again, it's a serious, for e-com brands, serious business. So even just lives in general, even if you're not selling, TikTok lives and lives in general is so important. Like, there's people that, again, make a living off TikTok live just by, like, we've all seen have you seen the TikTok NPCs? Yeah, so people pretended to be different characters, or every time someone sends them a little emoji, they go, wow, emoji, thank you. And they act like robots for hours and hours, but they make ungodly amounts of money from it.
But
it's
surely
insane.
linking back to AI, that'll be commoditized by AI. Possibly. Or is it because it's actual person being aware? Is that the commoditized point?
At least for the NPC non-playable characters. For the non-playable character streamers, the whole point of it is the novelty of you're making a human being dance like a monkey.
Right. Okay.
Essentially, because you make them
here
say
have a peanut.
Stuff.
Here have a peanut. Okay.
Yeah. People are sat there donating £1, £2, £3, £4, £5, £10 just to make them do stupid shit.
Yeah.
Which is a very dystopian place to be, but like that is.
It reminds me of a Black Mirror event somewhere there. There's got to be an episode like that somewhere, but yeah, no, absolutely.
It will happen because currently there are certain creators who are pretending to be robot AIs. Before that's available, if that makes sense. Yeah. So like they're in full cyberpunk like cosplay, and they're going donation, thank you, and but they're acting like they're not real. So once that happens, it's going to be easy. But I think when people look at this, they go, AI is going to just replace all of these creators. I think there will be a bigger pushback than you think in terms of people going, this ain't a person, I don't give a shit. And that will happen for a long, long time. Yeah. And there'll be, similar to how we get ads and spam, I think a big portion of AI content will be treated as such, as essentially slop. And then from that point, it will kind of develop from there.
Yeah, I think there's a really important point. I mean, obviously we don't know, right? Like AI is changing every day, etc. Right? Like we'll see what the market chooses, because that's who we will ultimately choose, will be the market, right?
Yes.
But as a final point to potentially wrap up on, if you could talk to yourself 10 years ago, right? So you're 18, roughly, like 17, 18.
Yeah.
What advice would you give?
Oh, that's a very interesting one. Is it
with what you know now?
Am I back in that time? So apart from telling myself lottery numbers and what to invest in, is it more, or am I like, if I'm 18 today?
Today, sure, why not?
Okay, because that changes the advice, I think.
Like if you were 18 today, so you could gain 10 years, what would you say to yourself? But you have none of the network that you have gained in the 10 years. You don't have the resources. You don't have the understanding. You have you have basically been reset, but it's today.
Yes.
So you get given 10 years, but you've also reset everything you've gained in the last 10 years as well.
I think it's really interesting because I know myself, and I don't listen to advice. Whenever someone else tells me to do something, I kind of do the opposite. It's a very like ADHD thing to do. But I think the important thing to say is consistency. I bang on about social constantly. It's what I do for a living. If I'd have been more consistent with my own content, I think I'd be in a very different place. Specifically focusing on platforms that will make me money. Twitch, YouTube, TikTok, all that kind of stuff, and honing in and making sure that being a creator is part of a business model and a part of an overall personal brand. Like we talked about before, personal brand is going to become so important. Some people say LinkedIn profiles will end up replacing CVs altogether because if anyone's ever done recent job applications, it's awful. It's very much how you get around it and get knowledgeable and letting the people know who you are. It's all going to be knowing who you are. So the game of contacts and Black Book has evolved to online. So if you're starting with no contacts today, it's probably the best point in time you could ever start for that kind of thing. But you have to have a clear strategy and try and conquer the fear of feeling like you don't know enough straight away. You can learn so much from the resources we have available on YouTube and things like that. Not to say you can become an expert, but you can learn enough to help someone else off your own back via online courses, YouTube channels, pretty much immediately. And all you have to do is just try and help people no matter what industry you're in. As long as you're earnestly and authentically trying to help people, you can kind of never go wrong. So you just mix authentically helping people with consistency. You'll be in a brilliant place given a little bit of time. So that's what I tell myself, just stay consistent instead of being on and off again.
Thank you for the time, James.
No worries. Thank you for having me, mate. Appreciate it.
Do you want to shout anything out before we go?
I suppose I do. Come down and use Hampshire Podcast Studios. It is a plug-and-play solution for entrepreneurs, businesses, and creators to create video podcasts, YouTube channels, pretty much anything you need. Unboxing videos, reaction videos, live streams. We pretty much got it all set up for anything. So if you're in the Hampshire area, you need to make content, come down, we'll have a cup of tea, we'll kind of plan out what you need to make, and essentially you can use this as a plug-and-play solution, or we can help you kind of manage the whole thing end to end. So if you need any help, create some content, come on down and let's get some stuff done.
Thank you ever so much for joining me, ladies and gents. I hope you took value from mine and James's conversation. We're going to leave it there. I'll be back very, very soon with a brand new podcast. Who knows where I'm going to be? Oh, it might be in Southampton, might be in London, might be somewhere completely different or digitally. I'll see you very, very soon. Thank you ever so much for coming back and joining me. And take care.